why does this approach break down? Like, why not just go further with this? You heard me talk about it a little bit. But yeah, like I said, this is cool when you're building something trivial. And maybe it's even preferred. Maybe if you're just building something small, maybe this is cool. Like there are some environments where like you don't have, you're limited on resources. Like if you ever built like a serverless function on a CDN, like your file can only be so big. So maybe the leaner, the better. So maybe there are times where like, this is fine. You don't mind doing the hard work because installing something is just not worth your time. Okay, that's fine. But for the most, if you're going to build something that's going to be used by someone, you probably don't want to do this. If you're going to build something that's going to be used by a team, you definitely don't want to do this. Like imagine working on a team with like 10 people with all different opinions on how a server should handle routing. And because there isn't a framework, you can do whatever you want. You're going to have 10 different versions of routing. Like it's going to be weird. And eventually you're going to sit down like, all right, we need to figure this out. How are we going to do routing? Oh, okay, now you're building a framework. So again, don't build a framework. Just use the ones that are out there.
I don't know if you're going to get into this, but there's a couple of questions around like the request and response object and what you can do with them, like how that gets passed to that callback.
That's a great question. Let's do my favorite thing in the world, console log. Just to show you, because I honestly can't tell you all the things you can do because there's just so many. So I'm just going to log the request object, and we'll log the response object, and then we'll take a look at it, and you can kind of get an idea of what's there, and then I'll talk about how they get there. So let's do that. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna keep scrolling. Here we go. Not there yet. Almost. It's almost there. Okay, there we go. Okay, yeah. So when it comes to networking, there's so many nuances and things that go into it, from headers to authorization to it's just so much. And then you tie into all the stuff that Node is decorating, this stuff with. So basically, what can you do with an incoming request? The answer is pretty much whatever you want. You have access to, the IP address that's making the request. You have access to, how big the request is, when it came, who is it. Like you could pretty much do whatever it is you want with the request. That doesn't mean you should. Response is typically only used for responding to the request. So it's not as, it's definitely more limited than an incoming request, since the request is like meant to be read. You can change the request, you can modify it, you can do whatever you want because it's only for the server. In fact, there's like, billion-dollar companies whose products like log requests, and they do stuff for it. Like if you ever use any logging platform that monitors your APIs, like yeah, they're just looking at your requests and doing introspection on it, and surfacing interesting things for you to like look at on a chart, right? So like you can do some pretty cool stuff with a request. Response is just for sending things back, and then how do they get passed to the callback? Well, that is the job of this HTTP module. When it creates a server, it's basically saying, you can think of it as like an event-driven architecture. So when someone makes a request to a server, that's an event. Just like if you were to make button.add event listener, right? You would say, I want to add an event listener on this button, and the event that I want to register for is called the click event. And when a click event happens, run this callback. That's the same thing. The event in this case would be an incoming request, and we want to run this callback when the request comes in. And just like in an event in the front end where you would get the event object that you can use inside the callback, we get a request, which is the thing that made the event, and then we get this ability to respond to it. And we need this response because without this, how would you respond back? Your server's going to get millions of requests. How would you know which request to respond to? This response object is scoped to the incoming request. So if this function runs 1,000,000 times per second, this response object is guaranteed to be scoped to this instance of the request that's running, if that makes sense.
Why didn't this request show in XHR under DevTools?
This request didn't show in XHR and DevTools because we didn't make an XHR request. We went to the URL. So an XHR request is explicit. I mean, you would literally have to call XHR in JavaScript, or maybe it shows in fetch when you do JavaScript. But this isn't a website that we made. In fact, this isn't a website at all. It's just nothing. It's just Chrome saying I have nothing to show you because the server sent me nothing. So it's not an XHR request. No different if you went to any other website like GitHub.com and hit enter. That's not an XHR request either. That's just the browser making a GET request to try to load up some HTML on the page. It's just we didn't send any HTML back. We sent nothing back. So the browser's like, well, I don't have anything to show you, so you're just gonna look at this white screen. We don't have any client-side JavaScript making an API call, so therefore it's not an XHR request. But if you do go to the network tab, you will see that it was a request. It'll be the only one there, most likely. Let's refresh this. Right here, you can see right here, localhost 200, type documents. This is the request right here, but it's definitely not XHR because there's no JavaScript here. We didn't call it.